Yes, guys, what's happening? And welcome back to the channel. And it is just finished. Chelsea 1, West Ham United 0 at Stamford Bridge. And the last gasp Christian Pulisic goal, sparing the Blues blushes after what was quite frankly another awful performance at Stamford Bridge this afternoon. Jorginho missing a penalty, absolutely pathetic penalty. And we got out of jail with that one, with Pulisic coming up with a last-minute winner. So we just about get away with it. And, you take it, but let's not kind of sugarcoat it. He was rubbish today. Absolute rubbish again. I'm not really sure what's going on in terms of performances. I don't want to come on here and, talk negatively after the fact we've won the game, but we need to say out how it is. We got lucky today. This wasn't even West Ham's proper team. This was their B team. They got Europa League on Thursday, semi-final first leg, which is far more important to them than this game. They had no Declan Rice starting, no Antonio, no Bowen. They had one fit centre-back, and they made it really hard for us. And the story of our season at Stamford Bridge is that we really struggle to break teams down that put a low block in, that, come and put 10 men behind the ball, and don't really make any effort to go and play themselves. I understand why we struggle. It was really flat today. First half was so boring. It was really shit. Like, we literally did nothing. Absolutely nothing. West Ham offered very little going forward, hardly any forays forward. I mean, we had 5 shots in the first half, I think, and basically offered shit all. Literally nothing. No attempts on target, no nothing. It was just a terrible display, particularly in that first half. Admittedly, second half, things did get a little bit better, and we did have opportunities. Chalobah with a shot, forcing a good save from Fabianski. Timo Werner having a pretty decent opportunity. So we did improve in that second half, but I felt again that, Tuchel, I think ultimately the substitutions kind of did work out, but I felt Tuchel was, again, a little bit late on the subs, waiting 75 minutes to make a triple change. I actually thought Timo Werner and Loftus-Cheek were 2 of our better players today, so I'm surprised that they both went off. I probably would have kept one of them. I probably would have kept Loftus-Cheek on, to be fair. I can understand perhaps the changes a little bit further up the pitch, but I didn't necessarily agree with that triple substitution. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter now, because one of those players in Christian Pulisic has come off the bench and he's come up trumps and massively bailed us out big time there, because more drop points at home, and this would have been a completely different conversation. But at the end of the day, that's why we're fans, and that's why Tuchel's paid the millions he is to make the decision. Sometimes the subs work out, sometimes they don't. But ultimately today they've worked out, and it's bailed us out, and it's such a relief to be sitting here talking about a win, because the form has not been good. Well, the form has been good recently, but at home it's been shocking. Our last 3 at home, 3 defeats, as I said in the Arsenal stream, the first time that's happened in over 20 years. So it was imperative we got back to winning ways today. The lineups come out. I actually liked the Chelsea lineup today. There was a little bit of confusion at first, because the lineup came out and it was Christensen in that left centre back role, and then apparently there'd been a mistake, and then he'd pulled up with stomach cramps in the warm up, and then Chalobah, who was initially named on the bench, was then put into the starting lineup. So a little bit of confusion there. But in terms of the lineup itself, obviously disappointing news again that Reece James appears to be injured. It's not a serious injury, tightness in his hamstring, so he was left out of the squad. But for me, I'm a little bit concerned about Reece James. I've got to be honest. We've obviously played him a lot more than we should have done in terms of his minutes coming back from injury. We need to manage him, but he's such an important asset to us that it's quite hard to get that balance right. But he does. I don't know if people want to talk about it, but he seems that he's very injury prone. I don't know if it's just this season, and I don't know, but yeah, he seems to be injury prone and picks up a lot of injuries. I mean, this season is a couple of lengthy spells on the sidelines, and then he's missing games quite regularly. So that has to be a little bit of a concern going forward. Hopefully, he'll be back for Thursday night when we head to Old Trafford, because we've got another 2 big games coming up next week, away from home at Man United and away at Everton Thursday, Sunday. We need him for those games. So hopefully that was very much just precautionary and not something that's going to be more long term. But the rest of the lineup, I think, fairly standard. I mean, I predicted Loftus-Cheek start a right wing back. I think ultimately that was the right decision. And as it turned out, I think it was really the only decision, because obviously Christensen with stomach cramps pulling up, Reece James not fit enough to play, Rudiger injured. Like we didn't have anyone else to play there, so we had to put Aspie in, and then we had to play Ruben on the right, Marcus Alonso on the left, Kante and Jorginho in midfield, and then on the form at the moment, our current best front three in Mount, Havertz, and Timo Werner. So, and realistically, for me, no, with the players available, no complaints about the starting lineup whatsoever. But what proceeded in that first half was awful. I mean, I was concerned about the urgency. It just looked lethargic. It looked lazy. The atmosphere, obviously, I wasn't at the ground, but watching it on the TV, it seemed like the atmosphere was terrible, like awful. I know we haven't got a full attendance there, obviously just season ticket holders, so a lot of empty seats. But, if you believe people, this is supposedly only the proper Chelsea that are there. All the proper fans, all the season ticket holders. But atmosphere, terrible. For me, it only really picked up once we got that goal and they kind of started cheering the team on a little bit more. But yeah, I thought atmosphere terrible today. A lot of things really, really not very good at all. Just seemed really lazy, tired. I know we've played a lot of games this season. We play the most games out of anyone. We're going to play, out of all the games we could have played this season, we could have played a total of 66 games, and we're going to end up playing 63. The only games we're not going to play this season that we could have played are the two semi-final legs of the Champions League and the Champions League final. So, yes, it's if you're going to be a successful club like Chelsea are and you want to go deep into all the competitions, you're going to have to accept you're going to have to play a lot of games, and fatigue is going to be an issue. And, you're going to have to use the squad. You're going to have to manage these things. But having said that, that's not an excuse for the last couple of performances at home. Despite the win today, let's make no mistake about it, the performance levels were not there. And I think we just need the end of the season quite badly now. We're gonna come in the top four. We need a couple more wins now from the last 6 games, which should be more than doable. Hopefully, we can just finish that off this week. I know it's 2 tough away games, but we can just get that in the bag and done. Then that'll be a massive relief. And then realistically, all that's left to focus on this season is that FA Cup final. So I mean, in terms of the league right now, for me, obviously, I want the boys to win in that, but it's just about getting the results now, getting those points on the board, securing that top 4, and then thinking about that FA Cup final, because that's what the season rests on now, is the FA Cup final. But back to the game itself, I thought first half, lazy, as RD said in the chat, big up, and Texas Blue, big up as well. Cheers for tuning in, guys. Everything was just off. It was slow. It was lazy. There wasn't much effort. Not a lot was going on. Nothing was happening. It all seemed very easy for West Ham. West Ham kind of just came with one plan. We're just going to defend and we're going to try and get a 0-0. And they were within 2 minutes of executing their game plan to perfection. And for whatever reason, wide players, our attacking players, like today, I mean, Kai Havertz was awful today. Absolutely awful. I know Lukaku gets stick, and rightly so. But if that had been Lukaku that had put in that performance today instead of Havertz, you wouldn't be hearing the end of it. Havertz was dreadful today. Absolutely dreadful. So I like Kai Havertz. I think he's going to be a top player. But let's make no mistake about it. Today he was shit. Absolutely dog shit. And that has to be said. Doesn't mean I don't like him. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. But if we're judging him on today, he was terrible. And that had been Lukaku, people would have been up in arms and absolutely raging. So I think it's important we provide a bit of context and hold people to the same standards. And that from Havertz wasn't good enough today. Mount not offering too much either. Werner again had moments. Seemed to retreat into his shell a little bit. Wasn't taking players on. Not as effective as he had been in previous games, but by no means awful. But had a great opportunity from a corner where I feel he should do better. There's also another opportunity where he puts one into the side netting. These are all big chances for Werner, and he probably should be doing a bit better with them. I feel he probably should have scored that one from the corner. I know he's kind of falling away from it and stuff, but you've got, as a top level player for Chelsea, you've got to do a bit better of those opportunities than that. But yeah, you get to the break and you're thinking, right, okay, big plus we've not conceded, because defensively recently we've been shocking. We've been really bad defensively recently. And so the only positive for me, and from a shocking first half, was the fact that we hadn't let a goal in. I know you could point to West Ham not having their best team out and their best attackers, and they didn't really offer very much going forward. But considering the individual mistakes that we've made, particularly at home in the last few games, it was a big plus. And the only plus of that first half was to get in at half time with a clean sheet. I mean, Tuchel in that first half, I think I've seen something on Twitter that he didn't even leave the dugout. He just sat there for the whole 45 minutes. So, yeah, you could tell that he was not best pleased. And I think we've had this over previous seasons. I know we fought right to the end today, but we've had this in previous seasons with Chelsea where you get to about 18 months into the reign that Tuchel is now. The mentality of these players seems to change a little bit. There's so many players at the club that aren't good enough to be there or don't deserve to be there. But the fact of the matter is, I won't delve too deep into it because I want to keep it on the game. But the squad needs such a big rebuild, and I tweeted it out last night. It's not an exaggeration to say that with new owners this summer and the reinforcement of the backline needs, etc., this is potentially one of the most, if not the most important summer in Chelsea Football Club's history in the last 20 years since Roman Abramovich bought the club. It is so important because the backing we give Tuchel this summer is going to dictate A, how long he stays potentially, and B, how long it's going to be until we're challenging for a Premier League title again. Because we need two centre-halves, we need a wing-back for the right-hand side, we need a midfield player, and we need to sort some stuff out in the top end of the pitch as well. So I'm not saying we can do it all in one window, but the investment we give this summer is going to go a long way to determining what the future of Chelsea Football Club looks like. So, it's so important that we get that right, because today, again, despite all the talent we've got on the pitch, we really struggled to break down a West Ham B team. We really struggled. Why attacking players, not taking players on, not taking risks, not trying to make things happen. I just don't understand kind of what's going on. I thought Chalobah, I thought he actually did quite well today. Yes, him and Azpilicueta were caught on the ball a number of occasions in the first half, but Chalobah recovered well. He's not played for a long, long time, and I thought he actually defended pretty well throughout the game. Aspie okay as well, but yeah, it's tough. It was tough today. It wasn't a pleasant watch on the eye whatsoever. West Ham made it really difficult for us, and I don't know what we can do about it. Away from home, it doesn't seem to be as much of an issue, but at home at Stamford Bridge, when teams come and just play a low block, we really struggle to break them down. And let's make no mistake about it, we were lucky today. We were really lucky. And second half, as I said, opportunities, Chalobah, save from Fabianski, Timo Werner with a couple of opportunities. And then, the longer the game's going on, you're thinking, oh, fucking hell, all right, get to 75 minutes, triple substitution comes, he takes off Havertz, Loftus-Cheek, and Timo Werner, and on come Lukaku, Ziyech, and Christian Pulisic. And, look, Lukaku, it wasn't great from Lukaku today, but he comes on and he's involved in a key moment in the game. He wins the penalty, and he does what he's not done enough this season. And, he does something that not a lot of centre forwards or do better than him. It's that when he pins a centre half, he turns them. And then as soon as Dawson, I know the contact kind of starts outside the box, but it finishes inside the box. He goes over, and it is a stonewall penalty. There's no denying it. I mean, is it a red card? I'm not sure. You're going on about the double jeopardy situation. Should you get a red card if you're giving away a pen? I mean, I'm not sure if one of those defenders might have got there himself, the goalkeeper. I don't know. Regardless, at the end of the day, it was a penalty. And you're thinking, oh, geez, right, okay. There's about 3-4 minutes left. Penalty. We're going to get away with one here. Jorginho steps up. I think he scored all his penalties for Chelsea this season, but he's not having a good season at all. Let's make that perfectly clear. Not having a good season. He's missed some really important penalties for Italy, particularly. And he steps up for this one, his standard run-up. The penalty, I'm sorry, from a professional footballer, you could have got a child out of the crowd, and they probably would have done exactly the same thing. It was pathetic from Jorginho. Absolutely awful. When your confidence is down and low, that sort of penalty looks great, but when it goes wrong, you just look like an absolute idiot. And he just looked like an idiot today. And to be fair, I think there's a conversation to be had that we should maybe be looking at switching our penalty taker. I think maybe Mount on penalties, or as you're saying, RD, I mean, let's just quickly bring that up. Lukaku's physicality is effective when he makes... Yeah, it is. When Lukaku moves and he pins centre-halves, he's effective, but he's just not done enough of that this season. We just haven't seen that enough. We haven't seen him getting up in a physical battle with centre-halves. I I mean, yeah, I thought Lukaku was potentially could have been taking it. They seem to be having conversations about it. But I agree, mate. Worst penalty that I've seen in a long, long time. I mean, it's probably the worst one I've seen since Aguero did that Panenka when we played Man City away, and Mendy just stood there and caught it. He just stood on his goal line and caught it. But yeah, this was a terrible penalty. And honestly, I'm sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, what is going on here? You just knew as well, like he was going to miss. Like I don't know what it is. It just seems to be this thing with Chelsea at the moment. You just knew he was going to miss. And 3 minutes left. I'm fuming, and I just thinking, right, we're on the way to more drop points at the bridge. That's 1 point from 6 from 2 home games. Not good enough. But actually, the crowd got up a little bit. The atmosphere was really the best it was all game in the last few minutes, and willing the team on. We're really pushing forward. West Ham are down a man. Declan Rice is dropping back into defence. We're keeping on going, and fair play to Marcus Alonso. For all the stick that he gets, he does come up trumps in key moments, and I thought he was pretty good today, and he is good at getting goals and getting assists and contributing to really important moments in matches. And today, he gets up down that left-hand side. He puts a great ball into the box. And it's a really nice finish from Christian Pulisic, who seems to be right place, right time. And, the ground erupts and it's just a massive sense of relief. And, we got away with it. There's no denying the facts that we got away with it today. But Christian Pulisic, who had been in a great run of form and then has found himself not playing very much football in recent weeks at all, to then coming off the bench and netting the winner. Hopefully that could be, perhaps a slight change, hopefully a slight change in fortunes for him as well, because he's found himself out the side, not playing very regularly at all recently. So maybe that goal could do his confidence the world of good, and he might push on from here now. Who knows? It's so hard to tell with Pulisic, because he'll come on and do something like this, make a good impact from the bench, and then he might start the next game, and he'll go missing. There's just no consistency there. And it's not just him. It's the same with all of them. Apart from Mount, who's been pretty consistent throughout the majority of the season, everyone else goes through patches of 3 or 4 games where they'll be good. Then there's a massive drop-off, and then they find a bit more. So it just seems to be rotating. It was Ziyech who was doing really well. Then it was Havertz who had a good run, has now kind of dropped off a little bit. Then it was Werner who seemed, he's kind of in the midst of his run now, but perhaps at the end of it. And then it was Pulisic also who was having a decent run. So there's no consistency in that top end of the pitch. But I mean, ultimately, we get that last minute winner in stoppage time from Christian Pulisic, Captain America himself. I'm pleased for him, because you want him to do well. He's a young player. He's had his injury difficulties. He's been in and out the side. There is talent and ability there. But like with so many of our players, it's just unlocking that potential on a consistent basis, and does it kind of fit what we need and where we're going at the moment as a team and as a lineup. But as I said today, we were very, very lucky today. Not a good performance, but as I said, what we've got left to play for this season, we're not going to drop back into that top 4 race. I know it's easy to say that, but I know Arsenal won their last 2 games. Fair play to them. That's a good week for them. But Tottenham losing, Man United aren't in the race. Between Arsenal and Spurs for 4th, we've got enough of a cushion for sure to see that through. So very much for us now, it's about just getting as many points on the board in the Premier League as possible, and it's all focus on the FA Cup final now. That's the most important thing for us. Yeah. Let me just quickly bring this up. He's not the finished article yet. People want him sold. He needs consistency and start. Yeah, no, I would agree. It's just like with a lot of these attacking players, it's frustrating because the ability's there, but we don't see it on a consistent basis for Chelsea. And Chelsea are always going to be a club that is not afraid to go into the market and bring someone else in. It's going to be very interesting what happens in the summer in those attacking positions, because make no mistake about it, there's a decision to be made about Lukaku, and there's going to be decisions to be made about 1 or 2 other players. You probably mainly say Pulisic and Werner, maybe Ziyech as well. But of those 4, 2, I think will probably be moved on, in my opinion. So there's decisions to be made there. What profile we go for, what's the right way of shaping the forward line going forward. But we just need more consistency and more kind of dynamic wingers. You look back to the days when we had, Duff, Robin, Joe Cole, Sean Wright-Phillips, in those early 2000 teams with Jose Mourinho first fell in charge. We always had dynamic wingers that took players on. We now we've got, talented wide players, but they seem to be afraid to take people on. The dribbling doesn't seem to be there. The creativity doesn't seem to be there. I don't know what it is, but it's just so hit and miss the entire time with our forward players. But ultimately today we get away with one. Let's make no mistake about it. We get away with one, but you take it and you just take the 3 points. You forget about this game. You move on, and we've got a big week ahead with obviously West Ham not West Ham. We've got Man United and Everton away. Really, really difficult trips. 2 difficult trips. But yeah, to be fair today, I mean, I don't know. I was speaking about the subs earlier, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts in the chat as well, guys that are tuning in. They did change the game. They changed the game. Ziyech, he looked bright. Obviously, a couple of crosses were overhit. Lukaku causing issues, when he came on winning the penalty, and obviously Christian Pulisic the match winner. So the substitutes did work today, and that's credit to Tuchel, and that's fair play to the guys that came on and ultimately made an impact. It is difficult to make an impact coming off the bench in a tricky game where one side's playing a really low block and the other side is just trying to break them down. It is hard as an attacking player to find that space in tight areas. So fair play to Tuchel today for those substitutions coming off, and fair play to the guys making an impact from the bench. So yeah, I think I think it's fair to say that we did well. Tuchel did well with that. But again, it wasn't great. It really wasn't great. But yeah, we move on, and probably the most relieved man in Stamford Bridge is going to be Jorginho, because if he'd missed that penalty and we'd drawn 0-0, this would have been a very, very different conversation. And also, just to say, let me just quickly bring this up on screen. The news that we obviously already knew, but it's now been confirmed by Tuchel, is that Antonio Rudiger is officially leaving the club. The situation is that he wants to leave the club. He informed me of this in a private talk. We gave everything, but we could not fight anymore because of the actions. So that is now official confirmation from the news that broke yesterday evening. It's now official from Tuchel, from the club. Antonio Rudiger will not be a Chelsea player next season. He will more than likely be signing for Real Madrid on a free transfer. So that's just, official confirmation of what we all knew anyway from the news yesterday. But Rudiger will not be a Chelsea player next season. Hopefully he can still play a part this season. I'm sure this injury is not too bad, and he will, play an important role in the remaining games of the season. But yeah, that disappointing news that Rudiger's gone. And I just wanted to very briefly talk about that before I get into the player ratings. Look, for me, it's always disappointing when players leave, but I can see it from both perspectives. From Rudiger's perspective, he's waited long enough now. He waited long enough. This should have, he's waited a long time. New owners coming in, would they meet his demands anyway? How long are those offers on the table from those other clubs going to be? We don't know what these other clubs have said to him. We don't know what Real Madrid have been saying. This offer is going to be here for you, but if you don't make your mind up in the next week or so, then that offer's gone, and we're going to turn our attention to someone else. You don't know what pressure's being put on Rudiger from other clubs that he's talking with. But ultimately, for me, it's disappointing. The timing's bad because, I think if the sanctions hadn't come, we could well have kept him. But I understand from the club's perspective that offering a long-term deal to someone at 29 years of age can be problematic. If we switch formations to a back four, I know he's played well in a back four when we've played it this season, but would we be getting the same level of performance? The fact of the matter is that he's been here kind of 4 years or so. He signed when Conte came. And realistically, Rudiger's only produced top-level performances for the last sort of 18 months, really since Thomas Tuchel's come in, as Rudiger's performance level stepped up. So we're taking a punt by making him the highest paid defender in the club's history at 29 years of age, based on the back of kind of 18 months of very good football. So I can understand from the club's perspective that, it's a bit of a risk. I understand from Rudiger's perspective that he's waited long enough. He didn't feel he could wait any longer, which is totally fine. He's not a snake by any means, like I'm seeing certain sections of Twitter saying that's absolute nonsense. But for me, the big disappointment is, if the club have done everything they can to keep him, if he's turned down the 230k a week deal, then the club have done what they can. You can't be held to ransom by players, and you move on. Players come and go. That's part and parcel of it. That happens all the time. Players that are popular with fans, they will come and they will go, and the club will go on. But the most disappointing thing is two things for me: is that one, we're going to lose Rudiger and Christensen for absolutely no money. Where, excuse me, that's about £120 million of centre-half talent there between the two, and we're getting absolutely nothing back into the club. So from a financial perspective, it's a real big blow. It's a blow from a playing perspective, but what I'm most annoyed about is not the fact they're leaving, because, if you offer them everything you can and they say no, that's fine. That's their prerogative. It's their career. It's their life. It's up to them what to do with their career. Fine, no problem. My biggest problem is the fact that we have not planned for this eventuality. We should have sat down with these players and say, look, you're entering the final 12 months of your contract. What are you thinking? Are you planning on staying, or are you going to move on? Because then you can have a conversation saying, right, this is what we're prepared to offer you. Do you want to stay on these terms? If they say no, then you can either sell them or you can bring in replacements already, so that when they leave, you're not left in as big a mess as we are now. Because the fact now that we fucked about not getting Koundé done last summer, we pissed about with Hakimi when we should have got that done as well. We would have been in a better position if we had Hakimi and Koundé in with this situation. Now we're in a situation where Rudiger and Christensen are leaving for free. We've got a 38-year-old Thiago Silva as our best centre-back next season. He's not going to play every game. This will be his last season next year. We've then got Trevor Chalobah, who talented but young and inexperienced, not a finished article. We've got Malang Sarr, who we don't know what's going to happen at the club. And then we've got Levi Colwill coming back from loan, who's never played a minute of top-flight football. And we've got Reece James that could play right centre-back. Those defensive options are not good enough. Not good enough. You are not going to do anything in the Premier League with those defensive options. That's the most annoying thing for me, is that we have not planned for this situation. We've not looked at it and thought, right, we've got two top defenders out of contract. There's always a chance that when a player enters the last 12 months of their deal, that they will not sign and they will move on. You're taking a massive risk. You're taking a big gamble. You're taking a huge gamble by doing that. And we've not prepared for that. We've not prepared for it. And that, in my opinion, is unforgivable. Okay, look, you look at selling Tomori, Mark Guehi, Livramento going. That just a number of defensive players that we have moved on. Now, I'm not saying we were incorrect for selling those players, because ultimately, if you wanted to keep those players at the club, but they want to leave to go and play regular first-team football, then there's only so much you can do. But then you have to question, well, have we got the pathway from the? Is there a clear pathway from academy side to first team? Yes, there is, in terms of, if you're good enough, the likes of Reece James, Loftus-Cheek, Mount, Callum Hudson-Odoi, etc. These guys have shown that you can make it. But the fact that guys like Livramento and Guehi and, those kind of guys have decided that actually their best chance to get other football is elsewhere. Are we missing out? We could have done with these players now. We really could have done. But I mean, I'm not saying, hindsight's a great thing, but we have to be better at being proactive as a club. We have to be proactive, because we should have got Koundé in last summer. If we had Koundé in last summer, that means that we only need to sign one centre-half this summer. The fact we didn't get him in now means that we've got to try and get him redone again, which shouldn't be too much of an issue. But then we then need another centre-back to replace Rudiger. And we cannot just go in with Levi Colwill, who is talented as he is and as exciting a prospect as he's going to be. We don't really know if he's any better than Trevor Chalobah at the moment. He's never played Premier League football. So it's an awful lot of pressure to put on an 18-year-old to come into that squad and ask him to do a job straight away. So we need someone else as well as him coming back in. So it's just a lack of planning from the board, which really fucks me off. That, you can see this situation happening time and time again. Players entering get this sorted. If you're entering the last 12 months of your contract and you don't want to sign a new one, get rid or bring someone else in. This is the frustrating thing, is that we're not proactive with our planning in the transfer market. And then we get to a situation like this, two top defenders are leaving, and we need to sign two centre-halves. This summer we need to sign a holding midfield player. Well, we can forget about that now, potentially, because we've got to sign two centre-backs and a wing-back. Are we going to have enough money to sign a holding midfield player? Are we going to sign someone in attacking positions up the pitch? It's just an absolute mess, And then not to mention that, at the start of next season, Jorginho and Kante are in the last 12 months of their deals. I know we're slightly better situation in midfield, but two top-class midfield players that could leave for free as well. we've got to be proactive and sort these things out. We have to be dealing with these situations and looking at the bigger picture, because we're always Chelsea just short-termism, just looking at short-term situations. And now all the short-term chickens are coming home to roost, and we're in the mud defensively, big time. And now there's not a lot of high-quality centre-backs around. Clubs will know that Chelsea are desperate for centre-backs, and that boosts the price up as well. So it's just an absolute shambles in terms of organisation and looking at the bigger picture from a transfer situation. There's no planning at the club. There doesn't seem to be any planning for any transfer windows. We need a proper footballing structure in place. Better scouting. Maybe a director of football. This Paul Mitchell from Monaco could be the guy to sort us out. We just need someone to identify players. We need to stop spending the big money on players. Look at more Premier League proven players and try and reshape our transfer policy. But the fact of the matter is that by not dealing with these situations now, we've left ourselves in a big hole in the summer. And yes, I'm gutted that Rudiger's leaving, but ultimately we did all we can to keep him. And to be honest, we left it too late. We should have dealt with it before the sanctions. It should have been dealt with. It's as simple as that, But the big problem is the planning. No planning whatsoever. Nothing at all. We need a proper football structure in place, and we actually need to sit down and think about transfers. But planning in Chelsea would be a lovely thing, but it doesn't seem to be happening. We just need to sort it out, because we're just going to end up in this sort of situation summer after summer where players are going to be leaving on free transfer and we haven't got a contingency plan, or we've not got replacements in to soften that blow like Liverpool have. Mane, Firmino, Salah, one of those is going to leave probably this summer when their contracts expires or whatever it is. They've already thought ahead. They've identified players. They've brought them in so that when those guys do move on, they can step in and take up the mantle. The likes of Diaz, the likes of Jota, the likes of Fabio Carvalho, who's coming in from Fulham. They're getting people in that whilst these top players are still there, so that they can learn the system. And then when they move on, they're there to step in and fit in seamlessly, and there's not any issues. We are not doing that. And that is the one thing that is really pissing me off. But that's enough of a rant about Chelsea on the transfer situation. Let's get stuck into some player ratings then. Let's have a look what's going on here. Right, let's bring it up then. Player ratings. So, guys, feel free to drop your thoughts in the chat below as well, in the comments as well, with the player ratings. Edouard Mendy in goal. Really a very quiet afternoon. I might be wrong, but I can't actually remember him. I can't remember him making a save. Did he make a save? I'm not too sure. There wasn't an awful lot to do. He kept a clean sheet, which will be a nice confidence boost for him. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think there was much. I don't think he really had much to do at all. I'd like to say it was better than average, but I think I'm going to be going with a 6 for Mendy. I think for me, not bad, but not by no means amazing. By no means amazing at all. So I think I'm happy with a 6 for Edouard Mendy, which I think is fair on that assumption today. So yeah, 6 for Mendy, and great that I can't remember what I'm saying now. Great that he's kept a clean sheet. That'll be a boost for his confidence from the amount of goals that we've shipped, and it was quite error prone. So fair play to him in the defence for getting a clean sheet after shipping so many goals. There was a lot Yarmolenko double chance. I think a 6 is fair for Mendy. Let's move on to Azpilicueta now. Slotting in at right centre back. I don't know. Look, it's hard really, because the guys kept a clean sheet, but they didn't really have an awful lot of defending to do at all. So Aspie solid, but at times in the first half, particularly caught out on the ball. I'd probably say a 5.5 is fair for Aspie. I'd probably say he was just above average. So we'll go with a 5.5. Again, as I said, guys, make sure you get involved in the chat with your ratings if you agree or disagree with me. Moving on to Thiago Silva, struggled the last few game weeks. Looks much more comfortable today. I felt he was decent on the ball. He marshalled that back line well, made some crucial tackles when he was required to. But quite a quiet game. So, I feel like I want to give him a 7, but I think, I am going to give him a 7. I'm going to give Thiago Silva a 7 today. I felt he was good and probably the best of our back line. Moving on to Trevor Chalobah then. No, 7.5/8. Fair. I mean, I don't know if I'm being a bit harsh, but I'll stick with the 7. Moving on to Trevor Chalobah, obviously wasn't meant to start today, but obviously with Christensen having stomach cramps in the warm up, then yeah, I mean, he comes in last minute and he's not played for a long time. He's been frozen out for a while. I felt he did, in fairness to him, I thought he did quite well today. Look, there was one opportunity in the first half where he gave the ball away. West Ham looked dangerous into the box, but he recovered well and won the ball back and dealt with the situation. I felt he was calm on the ball. He looked assured. For someone that's not played a lot of football recently, I felt he defended pretty well, made up for the errors that he did make. And I felt it was a solid afternoon for Chalobah. So, do you know what? I'm actually going to give Chalobah a 7, and I'm going to give Thiago Silva the 7.5. They're slightly flip-flop there, but I think that's fair for the back line. So yeah, 5.5 for 5.5 for Aspie. I don't know if that's a bit harsh. If I should maybe go, no, I'm going to stick with that. 7.5 Silva and 7 for Chalobah. Just one quick thing that I just wanted to bring up, something from Thomas Tuchel. And he was asked if he had any concerns about playing Antonio Rudiger. He said no concern. He has said he will play with everything he has until the end of the season. And I think that's one thing you can never level at Rudiger, that he doesn't give his all for Chelsea when he steps on the pitch. He 100% gives everything he's got. So fair play. I've got no issue with him playing in any future game. So yeah, no problem there. Let's move on to the fullbacks then. Ruben Loftus-Cheek in right wing back. I have to say, every time he's played here, he's done really well in that sort of hybrid role of right wing back and dropping and pushing up into midfield to make a third man there when he's pushing forward. Ruben's a great athlete. He's strong. He's good on the ball. He's good at getting forward. I felt he had a good game today. I really did felt he was good. And I do quite like him in that position. Obviously, it's not his natural position at all, and he's obviously learning it. But every time he's played there, he's been really solid. Good against Southampton, good against Real Madrid, and good again today. Just a solid all-round game from Ruben. I mean, I'll probably give Ruben the 6.5 today. I felt he was really good, and as far as filling in, I think he's been superb. Where he's had to play in so many different positions, positions that he's not used to. I thought he was good today, Ruben, and fair play to him. And I felt it was a mistake to take him off. I felt we should have left him on, but 6.5 for Ruben. Moving on to Marcus Alonso, who was voted the man of the match. Again, Jekyll and Hyde of Alonso, terrible against Arsenal. Much better today. Defended well, gets forward well, and in the crucial moment, he stepped up when it mattered, and he assisted the goal with a great ball into the box for Pulisic. Was he better than Loftus-Cheek overall? I don't know. I'm not sure if I should maybe give him the 6.5. And Alonso. Yeah, I know Alonso was man of the match. He was on I don't know what country you guys are watching in, but in UK, Sky Sports man of the match was, I think it was Marcus Alonso, Sky Sports man of the match, or in the stadium man of the match. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but I think he was probably pretty level with Ruben. But I think the assist maybe just shades Alonso onto a 7 today. I felt it was a good performance, really solid. Let's move into midfield then. Kante and Jorginho, two players that are bang out of form and perhaps might be slightly on the decline. Kante was better than he was against Arsenal, but he got forward, he got into the box a few times, but again, another issue is whenever any players get near the box, everyone is afraid to shoot. No one wants to take a shot on, which is again another issue. I don't understand why no one seems to be shooting when we get near the box. But back to N'Golo Kante after the shocker against Arsenal, he was better today, but still not that great. I'd have to say that him and Jorginho are probably two of the worst players on the pitch today. They really were. But with Kante, I just think average today. I'm going to give him a 5. I think a 5 is fair. Not awful, but nothing great either, to be honest. If we're being perfectly realistic here. Moving on to Jorginho then. Not the best of games from him. I felt he struggled to impose himself, up against Mark Noble and Thomas Souček. You felt, he could have, controlled the tempo, dictated the tempo of the game. He didn't really do that. And then obviously at a big moment at the end to get it on the score sheet, boost his confidence, misses the penalty. Not just misses the penalty, takes an absolutely woeful, pathetic penalty. Really bad. So Jorginho, for me, I don't want to give him a 3. I think I'm stuck between a 3.5 and a 4. I'll probably go with, I think I'll go with the 4, to be honest. I think the 4 is, the 4's fair. I'm going to give Jorginho the 4. I don't think he was good today. I really don't. And the penalty miss was it was inexcusable and it was awful. Moving on to Havertz makes me sick. Well, I wouldn't go that far. It was a poor performance today, but yeah, no, it doesn't make me sick. He's a talented boy, but yeah, today was not good. Mason Mount, moving on to him. He's been in really good form recently. This was probably his worst game since he's had his haircut. So make of that what you will. But joking aside, just average today, I think. Pressed hard, he was involved, but didn't really make a lot happen. I mean, if I'm giving Kante a 5, I think I'm going to have to maybe give Mount a bit more than him. I'm going to give Mount a 5.5, perhaps just above average. But yeah, really, it didn't really seem to do a lot or make a lot happen. Moving on to Timo Werner, again, had a couple of opportunities that I do feel he probably should have scored one of them. Could have done better, but he's done his best in that situation. He's done his best, but yeah, I don't know. This Werner, I just felt he was played within himself today a little bit. Haven't really seen the confidence from the last few games there. So, I mean, Mount with a 5.5. I don't really think Timo was that much better. I'd probably say that Werner was maybe a shade better than Mount. So I'd give him the 6. And then moving on to Kai Havertz. I really like Kai Havertz. A lot of Chelsea fans like Kai Havertz. Werner 5. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. Was Werner better than Mount? They both didn't really offer a lot. Maybe I should go with the 5 for Werner, just average today. I mean, let's change that. 5 for Werner, I felt average. The forwards didn't offer an awful lot. Kai Havertz, yeah. I mean, agreed, RD. He was a nuisance, but yeah, he should have done more on those chances. Yeah, would be better. It should do better. But moving on to Kai Havertz, then, not a good game from Kai today. Just nothing, really. Just absolutely nothing. Let's make that perfectly clear. I mean, he was definitely the worst of the front line. He wasn't worse than Jorginho today. If Kante's a 5, I think Havertz is probably a 4.5 for me. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to go with, RD. Havertz 4.5. Not a great game. I won't rate the subs because they didn't play long enough, but the subs were decent today. Lukaku was good. Bit of a handful when he came on. He won the penalty, made a nuisance of himself. Pulisic, obviously fantastic, popping up with the winning goal. And Ziyech, brought some creativity to the pitch when he came on. All things that were missing. But having said that, I've just seen now, on Twitter, that Jorginho actually for Chelsea today, most interceptions, won 2 out of 2 ground duels, completed 2 out of 2 dribbles, 2 key passes, wasn't dribbled past once, and he had 93% pass accuracy. It's just a shame his performance will get overshadowed by a shit penalty. I mean, having seen those stats, I don't know if he was actually okay today, but the missed penalty was poor. Maybe I'll just, I know I'm going to leave him at a 4, but his stats were perhaps better than what the eye test would show from watching him. But the subs all made an impact, and that's what made the difference at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, it's important. It really is. But I mean, that pretty much rounds out the ratings. I'm just having a look if there's any more kind of post-match reaction from Tuchel, any more quotes that are kind of worth bringing up. But this win was so important today because we didn't want to come away from these 2 home games with no points on the board. It was vital. I'm not saying we would get sucked into it, but you just don't want to take that risk when you're dropping points and you could be sucked into it. You just don't want it. You just don't want that to happen. What else have we got here from Tuchel? Thomas Tuchel on Christian Pulisic, actually. We tried to bring him back with full confidence from the bench, and I'm very happy he was able to have this big impact. Pulisic struggled a little bit since the international break, where he had an incredible amount of journeys and time zones. I felt he struggled a little bit energy-wise on and off the pitch. It's sometimes like this. So perhaps that's why Pulisic obviously has not been playing as much. In terms of Tuchel talking about the takeover as well, it would be ideal. But if you pull grass, it does not grow faster. We tried in the last weeks to focus on what we can influence, and that is the next match. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's got anything to say about on the penalty miss from Jorginho. It's his style, and he is right to stick to it. He is upset with himself, but happy with Pulisic to finish it. So ultimately, yes, the penalty was dog shit, but it didn't end up costing us the win. And I guess that's the most important thing there. Let's have a look. Tuchel being asked about strange feeling at Stamford Bridge. I think today was down to uncertainty. Games like West Ham, it's not easy to have good games against them. They defend with 8-9 players around their box, and it's tough to find spaces to accelerate. I did not expect a spectacular game in general. First half was a bit stuck, but I think that was because of a bit of uncertainty of the latest results at home. We grew into it, never lost patience. I think that's a fair point as well. So Tuchel, not great, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Not bad at all from. That's it really. I mean, not much else from Tuchel there on terms of the game itself. Chelsea did have 26 shots against West Ham, the most they've had in a Premier League game this season. And just one final thing, I wanted to bring up Ruben Loftus-Cheek. His stats today: most passes in the final third, 38. Most touches in the opposition box, 9. Most duels won, 6. Most chances created, 4. Most tackles, 3. And most take-ons, 2. So Ruben actually has done very well today. But yeah, ultimately, that's my player ratings. That's what I've gone with. If you agree or disagree, let me know as always. And at the end of the day, not a good performance from Chelsea. But the most important thing is that we got the 3 points on the board. We won, and we head into next week against Man United and Everton, 2 tricky games on the back of a win, and hopefully we can build some momentum from there. But let's make no mistake about it, not great from the Blues today. But Christian Pulisic coming up trumps in stoppage time after Jorginho had missed a penalty. But it's 3 points on the board. We move on. It seems like a good place to round out the stream. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you getting involved in the chat as always. Appreciate all your support. Please make sure you smash a like on this video. If you're watching, you've not hit that like button, please do hit that like button. It takes you seconds, costs nothing, and it really helps me out. And more importantly, please subscribe to the channel. Hit 400 today, so we're now on the road to 500 subscribers. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please do click that subscribe button. It really helps me out. It helps me grow the channel. There's lots of exciting stuff coming, so please do spread the word. Click that subscribe button and help me on the road now to 500 subscribers, and the ultimate goal for the end of the year to hit 1K. So if you guys can help me out, I would really appreciate it. But 3 points for Chelsea. A difficult afternoon at Stamford Bridge, but we can be happy with the rest of our Sunday afternoon. The Blues got the job done. And I will catch you next week, guys, where we've got match previews for Everton, Man United, and plenty more coming. So please do stay tuned. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend and up the Chelsea.